Welcome to the More Than Fitness podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Minisode number 106. Today's topic is one that is very near and dear to my heart. If you guys have been following me for some time, you know I'm a big fan of eating at restaurants, and I've had to figure out for myself, for the coaching clients that I work with, how can we still enjoy these amazing experience with friends, loved ones, by yourself, etc., and still stay on track with our fitness goals. And so that is what I want to talk about today. 10 tips on how to eat healthy at restaurants. And let's go ahead and dive right into it. The first tip I want to give you guys before you ever even get to the restaurant is that I want you to take a step back and figure out your priorities. I want you to decide with that meal. So you're going out to eat, let's say with your friends that evening, and you need to decide, is your main priority for that meal going to be fat loss and health? Or is it going to be enjoyment and experience with your friends? Because while you can kind of mingle in between those two, I think it's whenever you get into that gray area of, I'm just going to try and do my best, that's whenever you can feel guilty whenever you go to a restaurant with good intentions to eat a healthy meal, but then at the last moment you cave in, you have that burger and fries, and then you don't even get to enjoy the burger and fries. You feel guilty about it. So what I tell my clients to do, to give them an actual framework to decide before they go is the main priority fat loss or is the main priority enjoyment? Whichever one it is, there's no wrong answer, but just commit to that. And if it's enjoyment in the experience, well, then you're not going to worry about how many calories the meal has, what macros are in certain things or whatever. It's just you're going there to enjoy the experience. And with fat loss, you're going to pay a little bit more attention to things. And so for the sake of this video, I'm going to focus more on the fat loss side of things, because with experience and enjoyment, that's just kind of on you. You don't want to be thinking about your choices as much. You just want to enjoy it. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is to balance your calorie intake throughout the day. Obviously, if you don't know ahead of time that you're going to go out to eat, this may be a little bit more difficult. But if you know you're going to go out to eat tomorrow, for example, well, then you can go ahead and plan your day starting at breakfast to balance out the calories in the beginning of the day. And I'm not saying to fast or to starve yourself or anything like that, but I'm just saying to have a little bit lower calorie meals, right? So have, protein shake, have a grilled chicken salad, right? Have some lower fat, nutrient dense options that are high in protein and high in fiber, and just kind of allow you to budget a little bit of calories and macros for that meal that you're going to have later on in the day. It's just going to give you a little bit of a buffer before you go out to eat. So I think it's pretty simple. If you're going to have a big dinner at the end of the day, make your breakfast and lunch just a little bit smaller, and vice versa. If you're going to have a big breakfast, then make your lunch and dinner for that day a little bit smaller. All you need to do is balance out your intake. Okay, number three. This kind of refers back to number one a little bit. But what I would recommend is that if your priority is fat loss for this meal, make sure you look at the calories, or at least if you're not even counting calories, just look at the menu of the restaurant beforehand and pick out at least two options that you think would be good fits for you before you even go. What I want you to do, pick out two, because even if you go and then maybe they don't have one, right? So then you at least have a backup, or maybe you get there and then you change your mind at the last second. But I would have at least two options, healthy-ish options, but then make sure you have 100% clarity on what those two options are, and then commit to getting one of those two whenever you get there. Don't at the last second, whenever they ask you what you want to eat and everyone else has ordered burgers or pizza or whatever, and then you cave in, right? Because then again, you're going to feel guilty and you're not going to keep that promise to yourself and you're going to feel bad about it. So have 100% clarity, look up the calories online, look up at least 2 meal options beforehand and stick to it. Tip number 4 is around hunger. This is one of the biggest things that I tell my clients because it makes all the difference, because you guys know going to restaurants ravenously hungry, the likelihood that you're going to be ravenously hungry and then you pick out a healthy option is basically a 0 out of 10, right? Like it's almost never going to happen. So what I would say is aim for about a 4 out of 10 on the hunger scale, with 10 being completely stuffed and uncomfortable and 1 being like super ravenously hungry. Stay in about that 4 range. And so for what I recommend to my clients and what I do myself sometimes is I'll just have like half of a protein shake about 15 to 30 minutes before I go to the restaurant. That way it's just a little bit of enough food to not be ravenously hungry whenever I get there, and then stock up on chips and appetizers and bread and things like that. But it's not too much to ruin my appetite for the meal. So you want to kind of find that sweet spot. I think unsalted nuts are another nice little option, just a small handful of unsalted nuts. And I say unsalted because it makes them less palatable. Really salty nuts are really easy to eat, right? So unsalted nuts can be another just small buffer, maybe some fruit or something like that, or a combination. These are all little things that you can have 15 to 30 minutes before you go to help you out with your hunger before you get there. Okay, number 5, going back to chips and bread and things like that before the meal. I don't want to say just avoid it entirely, because maybe you don't want to be that guy or girl that just avoids everything at the dinner table whenever everyone else is enjoying it and there's maybe great apps or something like that. Instead, what I would say is get 1 piece of bread, or maybe have, because you have the small plates, just get a small handful of chips and put those on your plate so that you have something, right? But not too much, right? And again, if you follow the hunger rule that I just laid out, this shouldn't be too hard to just show some restraint. But if you want a small piece of bread, or if you want a small handful of chips, it's like, by all means, go for it. But whenever you put those chips on your plate, whenever the chips are gone on the plate, and notice I said put them on the plate, because if you're just grabbing and estimating, right, it's like it's super easy to get lenient on that, and the calories can add up really quickly. So grab a small bit, put it on your plate, eat what's on your plate, enjoy that. Don't think about the food as much, and then move on, right? Like, don't put any more chips on the plate. That's your signal. Okay, it's time to stop. I'm just going to wait until dinner. Okay, number 6 is going to be focus on having fun with the company that you're with, and try and actually savor the food. Don't rush through things. Be mindful of how quickly you're gulping down your food, and try and feel the textures and the flavors, and notice the ambiance of the restaurants. Have genuine conversations with people. Just try to not keep the focus on how many calories am I eating? How much fat does this have? How much am I eating too quickly? Just slow down a little bit, take it all in, and try and just enjoy the experience, right? Which brings me to point number 7, put down the phone. That's it. That's all point number 7 is. Put down the phone. Again, you're there for the experience, and especially during times of COVID, cherish these moments in restaurants if you're even able to have them. I'm in New York City right now, and we're not even able to go to restaurants. So hopefully be able to soon. But if I do, put down the damn phone. Okay, number 8 is put your utensil down between each bite while you chew. This is just another little mindfulness hack. For me, it's just, I'll take a bite, I'll put down my utensil, I'll chew the entire bite, swallow the bite, and then I'll pick up my utensil again. I think another easy trick is just to have a sip of water or whatever you're drinking, right? Have a sip of that in between each bite or every 2 bites. Breathe. I think that's a pretty good recommendation whenever you're going through this. Is just take some breaths. Again, don't rush through things, and try to eat a little bit more mindfully. Number 9 is a hack that I think is super helpful for many people whenever they hear it for the first time, and that has to do with salad dressing at restaurants. And so typically what happens is people get the little thing of the little cup of salad dressing, and then they just pour it all over their salad, or it comes that way. And so you can ask to get it on the side. But what I would say, instead of pouring it all over your salad and probably getting way more calories from that dressing than you would like, I would have the dressing on the side and then dip your fork in the dressing before each bite. So dip in the dressing and then take your bite of salad. That way you get minimal dressing, but you still get enough with every single bite that you take, right? Because ranch dressing, assuming that most people are going to be getting ranch, it's just like the calories on that can really add up, and you don't need to drown your salad in that anyway. But of course, I understand you maybe want to have dressing with each bite. So dip it first and then take your bite. It can really be a game changer. Okay. And number 10, when in doubt, order a big piece of lean meat. And honestly, like, it doesn't even have to necessarily be a lean meat, even though if you go to a nice restaurant or something, typically the steak is going to be a nicer cut of meat. If you get something like a sirloin or a filet, right, it's going to be a leaner cut of beef. But as long as you get a big piece of meat and veggies, like, you can't really go wrong with that, whether it's salmon, whether it's steak, or if you like chicken, right? Doing something like that, you cannot go wrong. Big piece of meat, lots of vegetables, as simple as that, right? And the last thing would be cautious of the oils, because whenever you're at restaurants, they put oils on basically everything to cook it, and those oils can really add up. So if you are counting your calories, make sure that you overestimate, especially probably on fat, and just the overall calories for the meal, to give yourself a little bit of a buffer. Whenever you are adding up your calories, because you're probably not going to be able to estimate it perfectly. And then the calories you see online with these restaurants can have a huge margin of error to begin with. So stay on the safe side and give yourself a buffer by overestimating on the calories. Okay, and that is it. 10 tips on how to eat healthy at restaurants. Hope that helps. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening and for watching. See ya.